Hi, and thank you for coming to this University of Oregon Theater Department fundraiser for Food for Lane County. First off, I want to let you guys know that we will be recording tonight so that we can share with other people later. Secondly, thank you for supporting us and fundraising for Food for Lane County. Every dollar donated is equivalent to 3 meals, and the goal for U of O this year was $35,000, and we have raised $50,000 so far. So there will be a raffle drawn on Monday by the theater department, and donating will enter you into the raffle. Gift examples are gift cards to Prince Pucklers, Crumble Cookies, Wildlife Safari, Mental Mansion, and Onsen Hot Tub Rentals. So we will be reading 3 stories tonight. First, Kate and the Beanstalk by Mary Pope Osborne. Second, Little Red Riding Hood, A Modern Prairie Tale by Lisa Campbell Ernst. And third, The Three Little Pigs by James Marshall. Thanks for coming. Kate and the Beanstalk, written by Mary Pope Osborne and illustrated by Giselle Potter.
Olive.
Long ago, a girl named Kate lived with her mother in a humble cottage. One day, after a hard winter, Kate's mother was in despair.
We are sure to die from hunger unless we sell our only cow to get money for food.
Kate was a plucky girl who loved to help.
Don't worry, I will take care of everything.
Giving her mother a hug, she set out for the market with their cow. On the way, Kate met a beggar holding a small sack.
Magic beans.
How extraordinary.
And Kate, when she saw them, for the brown beans shone like dark gold.
I don't think I can live without them.
They can be yours in exchange for your cow.
Without another thought, Kate traded her cow for the beans and rushed home to give them to her mother. But to Kate's surprise, her poor mother was horrified.
Our only hope is gone. Now we shall surely starve.
And she tossed the beans out the window. Hungry and forlorn, Kate went to bed. During the night, Kate couldn't sleep. She got up and crept into the moonlit garden. She gasped, for in the darkest corner, a giant beanstalk rose into the sky. It rose higher and higher and higher still, till it disappeared behind the clouds.
Does it ever end?
Without waiting for morning, Kate began climbing the beanstalk. She climbed and climbed and climbed, up and up and up. When Kate reached the top, light was creeping into the gray sky. Through a misty haze, she saw the most astonishing sight. Above the clouds was a countryside with fine woods, a crystal stream, a rolling sheep meadow, and a mighty castle. As Kate stared in wonder, an old woman hobbled out of the woods.
Hello? Hello? Is that castle your house?
No, my dear. It once belonged to a noble knight and his fair wife. They had a small infant and many treasures. But one day, a monstrous giant came to steal them from them. He killed the good man and took over his castle.
How dreadful!
Fortunately, the knight's wife and baby were visiting in the valley. Afraid to return home, the grieving widow stayed below to raise her child. But alas, now they are very poor and close to starving.
That's so sad.
Sadder than you know, my dear. Perhaps you are the one to right the terrible wrongs that have occurred.
Me?
Are you afraid?
I don't think so. I feel nothing when I'm doing right. How can I help?
The knight had 3 precious treasures: a hen that lays golden eggs, a bag filled with gold coins, and the most wondrous harp in all the world. If you find these and return them to the knight's widow, then she and her child will not die from hunger.
I should try.
With a deep breath, Kate bid farewell to the old woman, then strode across the sheep meadow. As she approached the castle, a giantess lunged into the early morning light.
Help me! My husband makes me cook from the cock's crow to the owl's hoot. Whenever I hire servants, he gobbles them up.
I will be your servant, but you must hide me from the giant.
Kate helped the giantess make breakfast until the sun came up. When she heard the giant coming down the hall, she trembled with fear. His footsteps sounded like the booms of a cannon.
Hide!
And she pushed Kate into a closet. Peeking through the keyhole, Kate watched and listened.
Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an English woman. Be she alive or be she dead, I'll grind her bones to make my bread.
Don't be silly. You only smelt the wagon load of bacon I fried for your breakfast.
Oh,
When the giant finished eating, he said,
bring me the knight's hen.
The giantess brought out a small brown hen,
Lay.
and the little hen laid a golden egg.
I love my lovely little stolen hen.
Then he put his head down and fell asleep, snoring as loud as thunder. Ever so quietly, Kate crept out of the closet. She grabbed the hen and rushed from the castle. She ran across the sheep meadow to the beanstalk. Down and down and down she climbed and climbed and climbed until she landed kerplop in the garden.
It's better if Mother doesn't know of the danger I've been in. Stay here until I can return to you to the knight and poor widow.
Kate knew she must disguise herself to return to the castle. That night she dressed in a wig and beard, crept out to the moonlit garden, and climbed up the beanstalk again. Kate climbed and climbed and climbed, up and up and up. In the light before dawn, Kate crossed the sheep meadow and knocked on the castle door. When the giantess came out, she roared.
Help me! I need a servant. The last one stole our hen and ran away.
All happened as before. Kate helped the giantess make breakfast until the sun came up. When they heard the giant's booming footsteps and bellowing voice, the giantess hid Kate in the closet.
Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an English woman. Be she alive or be she dead, I'll grind her bones to make my bread.
Calm down. You only smell the mountain of hash I made for your breakfast.
Oh,
When the giant finished eating, he said,
bring me the knight's money bag.
The giantess spread out a bag filled with gold coins, and the giant greedily counted them.
I love my lovely little stolen coins.
Soon the giant's head began to nod. Kate watched him fall asleep. Then she crept out and grabbed the money bag. She ran out of the castle and across the sheep meadow to the beanstalk. Down and down and down, she climbed and climbed and climbed until she landed kerplop in the garden.
Goodness, what a day! I must hide these coins until I can return to the nice poor widow.
Kate hid the money bag with the hen, then slipped back inside her house. That night, Kate disguised herself once again and started up the beanstalk. She climbed and climbed and climbed, up and up and up. She ran across the sheep meadow, and just as the sun came up, she knocked on the castle door. When the giantess came out, she grabbed Kate and cried,
"Help me! I need a servant! The last one stole our money bag and ran away!"
Again, all happened as before. Kate helped the giantess make breakfast. Soon, the giant's footsteps boomed down the hall, and the giantess hid Kate in the closet.
Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an English woman. Be she alive or be she dead, I'll grind her bones to make my bread.
"You old fool! You only smell the sea of fish soup I made for your breakfast."
When the giant finished his soup, he cried,
Bring me the knight's singing harp.
The giantess brought out a magnificent harp, the only one of its kind in the world. The harp sparkled with diamonds and rubies, and it had strings made of gold.
Sing!
The harp began to sing a sad, haunting song. It sang of the past, of the noble knight, his lost wife and child, of golden days and starry nights. The harp's lovely song nearly broke Kate's heart. When the giant fell asleep, she crept out from behind the door, seized the harp, and ran away with it. But the harp was so frightened it sang high, fearful notes.
"Help me! Help me! Help me!"
Quiet! I'm going to return you to the nice poor widow.
But the giant had already been awakened. He jumped up with a shout and ran after Kate. Kate flew like the wind across the sheep meadow. She grabbed the beanstalk and started down with the harp, the giant fast on her heels. Down and down and down she climbed and climbed and climbed, and the giant climbed and climbed and climbed right after her. As soon as Kate's feet touched the ground, she shouted,
Mother, bring the ox! Hurry!
Kate's mother ran out with the axe, and Kate grabbed it.
Stand back, Mother.
With one mighty blow, Kate chopped the beanstalk in two. Down and down it fell, down through the sky, and down fell the giant. Whoop! Down into the garden, breaking his neck. The ground shook like an earthquake. Kate's mother took one look and cried out in horror.
That's the giant that killed your father.
My father?
Before her mother could answer, a fairy approached in a chariot drawn by two peacocks.
Greetings, brave Kate. As queen of the fairies, I have long waited to avenge the treachery done to the good knight. But first, I needed to know if his daughter was worthy of her inheritance. So I disguised myself as both the beggar and the old woman and sent you on your quest to your father's castle.
My father's castle?
Kate looked at her mother, who nodded.
Never spoke of your father after he was slain. He would be most proud of you now.
Kate hugged her mother, and they wept for the sorrow and wonder of it all. Then they climbed into the chariot and rose through the clouds to the castle that was once again theirs. Up and up and up. Kate asked the giantess to stay on as their cook.
"Thank you for your kindness. Would you like biscuit and jam?"
Indeed.
Indeed.
And the giantess served them a biscuit as big as a cow. The end. Little Red Riding Hood, a newfangled prairie tale by Lisa Campbell Ernst.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived at the edge of Great Prairie. Because she always wore a jacket, a red hood when she rode her bike, everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. Now, one morning, as Little Red Riding Hood sat eating her favorite berry muffin, she had an idea.
Mom, it's going to be a real scorcher today. Grandma sure would love it if I brought her some muffins and lemonade. You know how crabby she gets in the heat.
Little Red Riding Hood loved visiting her grandma.
Great idea.
So Little Red Riding Hood's mother packed the steel warm berry muffin and cold lemonade into the basket. After airing up the tires on her bike and testing the brakes, Little Red Riding Hood set out on her way.
Now don't forget, go straight to Grandma's, and whatever you do, don't talk.
Sure, Mom.
Little Red Riding Hood paddled down Toll Road, past to the gas station, the feed store, and Old Wilson Place. She waved at everyone she saw, and everyone waved back as the edge of the town disappeared and the parade began. Little Red Riding Hood zigzagged between the crops, taking the shortcut to Grandma's house. Blackbirds startled and sunflowers swayed as she whizzed by.
What a nice visit this will be. Grandma simply adores muffins and lemonade.
But who should cutting through the same field and up to no good, I must add, but a very hungry wolf. When the smell of those wheatberry muffins came wafting his way, the wolf's nose quivered.
Whatever it is, I must have it.
With one giant lip, the wolf landed right in front of Little Red Riding Hood's bike.
Ah.
Little Red Riding Hood slammed on her brakes.
Hey, be careful. You could get hurt surprising someone like that.
The wolf chuckled at warning.
What's in that basket, dearie?
He asked with a wide-teeth grin.
Muffins and lemonade for my grandmother.
But such a tantalizing smell. They must be very special muffins.
Oh, they are. They're my grandmother's secret recipe, and they always take first prize at the pet fair.
The wolf licked his lips.
She must be a dear, sweet woman. Do you have very far to travel?
Oh no, just over that ridge, this side of Turkey Creek.
How fortunate.
I have to go. Grandma's waiting.
The wolf slyly turned in the opposite direction and pointed.
Oh, what beautiful flowers. Such a dear, sweet grandmother certainly deserves some of those.
Little Red Riding Hood nodded.
Gee, you're right. Grandma loves flowers. Do you think she'd like these white ones too?
But the whistle of the parade went on was the only response. The wolf was gone. Of course, the wicked wolf had a startling plan.
Hardy har har.
He laughed wildly as he raced through the wood.
First, I surprise that feeble old granny and steal her recipe. Then I wait for the kid in the red jacket to show up with the treats. Soon I'll hold the secret to those delectable muffins, and those two country bumpkins won't know what hit them.
His evil chuckle drifted through the field. When the wolf arrived at Grandma's house, he found a note at the door, said, Little Red Riding Hood, out in the field, love Grandma.
This'll be easier than I thought. Grandma's obviously off her rocker, wandering around in the heat. Muddled brains are so easy to persuade.
The wolf cackled, feeling enormously pleased with his good fortune. But when the wolf searched the field for Little Red Riding Hood's tottering granny, all he could see was a farmer riding a tractor. Impatient, he shouted,
Hey, old man, where's the ancient granny who lives in the house?
The farmer, though, seems to hear nothing.
Very well. I love surprising these dim-witted hicks.
And he began to silently sneak up behind the tractor. Then, before the wolf knew what was happening, the farmer whirled around and grabbed him by his fancy suspenders.
Right there, scoundrel. What in tarnation do you think you're doing?
The wolf gasped and stammered.
I'm looking for the frail, loony muffin bacon granny who lives in the house.
Well, Sherlock, you're talking to her.
The wolf's mouth dropped open and he began to shake.
My, what big eyes you have, Grandma.
All the better to see you skulking around my fields.
My, what big ears you have, Grandma.
All the better to hear you coming.
My, what big hands you have, Grandma.
All the better to crush you like a bug, if need be.
And little for the wolf, Little Red Riding Hood rode up just at that moment.
Grandma, are you okay?
Sure, sweetie.
Together, they marched the grumbling wolf to Grandma's kitchen, Grandma lecturing all the way.
Didn't you think if there was a little Red Riding Hood, there might be a big Red Riding Hood? I thought I got rid of bullies like you and I moved away from that forest. Might as well have a bite to eat while we decide what we're going to do next.
The wolf for once was silent, his mouth full of the delicious muffins.
Of course.
Soon after, Grandma opened her own muffin shop in town, just west of the post stop. The wolf, he was her chief baker, sales clerk, and dishwasher, being kept too much busy to cause trouble for anyone. Naturally, the wolf got to eat all the muffins he wanted, which improved his disposition enormously. But just in case he got any idea about stealing Grandma's recipe again, Grandma always put in the last secret ingredient herself. Little Red Riding Hood, too, went to work for her grandmother, delivering muffins on her bike. Every day, rain or shine, the wolf carefully packed Little Red Riding Hood's basket.
Hey, kid, don't talk to strangers.
And Little Red Riding Hood never did again. The end.
The Three Little Pigs by James Marshall.
Once upon a time, an old sow sent her 3 little pigs out into the world to seek their fortune.
Now be sure to write and remember that I love you.
The first little pig met a man with a load of straw.
I know. I will buy your straw and build a house.
That's not a good idea.
Mind your own business. Thank you.
And he bought the straw and set about building a house. It took him no time at all. Very soon, a lean and hungry wolf happened by. Pig was just about his favorite food in the world, so he knocked on the door and said,
Little pig, let me come in.
No. Not by the hair on my chinny chin chin.
This annoyed the wolf to no end. And he said,
Go right ahead then.
So the wolf huffed and puffed and blew the house in. And he gobbled up the little pig. The second pig met a man with a load of sticks.
I've got it. I'll buy those sticks and build a house. I'd think twice about that. Oh, pooh, what do you know?
And he bought the sticks and he went to work building a house.
Very pretty.
No sooner had the little pig settled into his pretty house than the wolf happened by. He was still hungry.
Little pig, let me burn. No, not by the hair of my chinny chin chin.
The wolf didn't care for that at all. And he said,
I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in.
Ha ha ha.
So the wolf huffed and puffed and he blew the house in. Now the third little pig met a man with a lot of bricks.
These bricks will make a fine, sturdy house.
Capital idea, my good fellow.
So he bought the bricks and set about building a house. It took him quite a bit of time, but it was well worth it.
Nice and solid. Nice and solid.
But no sooner had the little pig moved in than he noticed the wolf was loitering about. And the wolf, who was still hungry, said,
Little pig, let me come in.
No. Not by the hair of my chinny chin chin.
Well, the wolf has heard that before.
Then I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in.
Oh, don't do that.
But the wolf huffed and puffed until he was quite blue in the face. The house stood firm.
Wolf, how about trying another approach?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then he
I'll
put on his
try
mustache
another
and he
approach.
smiled.
Little pig, I was only teasing. By the way, I hear tell that Farmer Jones has the most scrumptious turnips. Shall we go pick a few?
Oh, I am much too busy now. What about tomorrow morning?
Excellent. I'll come for you at 6.
Splendid.
The next morning, the little pig got up at 5,
I'll come
hurried
for
off
you at
to
6.
Farmer Jones's turnip field, picked a basket full of scrumptious turnips, and dashed back home. When the wolf arrived at 6, the turnips were already boiling in the pot.
Sorry, I couldn't wait.
The wolf tried not to show his displeasure.
By the way, there is a lovely apple tree down in Merry Meadow. Shall we go help ourselves to a few apples?
I must cook my turnips. Let's meet there tomorrow morning.
Splendid. Shall we say 5?
The next morning, the little pig was up at 4 and went off for the apples. It took longer than he'd expected to reach Merry Meadow, and while busy gathering apples in the highest tree, he saw the wolf approaching.
Oh, do try one of these.
And then he threw an apple as far as he could. When the wolf chased after the apple, the little pig shimmied down the tree and made it safely home. The next day, the wolf came again. Really, he was quite put out.
There's a fair today on Hog Hill. Would you care to go?
Why don't we meet there? Would 3 o'clock suit you?
Colossal. 3 it is.
Just to make sure, he would be there at 2. At 1 in the afternoon, the little pig went to the fair and had a fine time. So fine that he lost track of the hour. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, he saw the wolf coming up the hill. Without a minute to spare, the little pig jumped inside an empty butter churn and rolled down the hill toward the wolf. Well, the wolf was so scared, he ran all the way home. That evening, the wolf went to the little pig's house and told him how frightened he'd been by a great round thing that came down the hill.
Oh, frightened you, did I? That great round thing was a butter churn, and I was inside.
This was simply too much for the wolf to stand.
I've been nice long enough. I'm going to eat you right now.
And he climbed onto the roof. When the little pig saw this, he put a big iron pit in the fireplace and quickly stoked the fire.
Here I come. Dinner time.
Ew! You can say that again.
And he cooked the mean old wolf and gobbled him up.
Yum, 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 yum.
Thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. And don't forget to, Jessica, did you have
I was single-handedly clapping.
and
That was
there will
great,
be a
guys.
link in the
Thank you.
chat to donate if you would like to.
Yeah, thank you. Oh my gosh.